Hello, everybody. 150 years ago today, the well-known words were uttered, Dr. Livingstone, I presume. The reporter, Stanley, had been sent by his newspaper and had spent 2 years hunting for David Livingstone, the well-known missionary, who for 4 or 5 years had not been heard of, but people knew that he had gone to Africa. And Stanley, a working class chap who always found his origins a bit embarrassing when he was mixing with people of a higher class back in those Victorian days, meets at Livingstone, no doubt full of joy, full of relief that finally, after 2 years travelling, he's eventually found him. But he's in a bit of awe of him, and simply says, slightly tongue-in-cheek, one suspects, Dr. Livingstone, I presume. And Livingstone, who must have felt extraordinarily relieved to at last see a white face after 4 or 5 years of not doing so, who'd had a very difficult time. He'd been seriously ill, and as someone who'd gone to Africa partly because he wanted to do things which he thought would lead to the abolition of slavery, found himself being cared for by people who kept slaves, indeed by slaves, and indeed had recently, just the previous year, witnessed a massacre of some slaves by Arab traders, with all the sense of compromise, a sense of guilt, the sense of uncertainty and anxiety that he must have felt. He replied, glad to see you. I'm grateful that I'm here to welcome you. And one senses in this interaction two people with enormously deep emotional feelings going on in their hearts and minds, but simply saying to each other purely formal things. It made me realise that sometimes when we are formal with each other and just do things, say things, and people say, how are you, and we just say fine, that we're hiding most of the time all sorts of feelings and emotions that we could let rip about and tell people about, but somehow we don't. And I just thought that sometimes it's worth mentioning that it might be good to do that, not to hide how we're feeling, whether it's joyful, like Stanley was feeling at finding Livingstone, or guilty perhaps, as Livingstone was feeling about his what Stanley might discover about him. Whether the feelings are good or bad, to perhaps share them more openly with others if someone asks us how we are, or greets us, and avoid perhaps the formal level of relationship that's necessary a lot of the time, but some of the time can hide the opportunity that we might have to share with others how we're really feeling.